Hello everyone, this is Ron from High Tech Legion, and this is part of a review of the NZXT Phantom 410 mid-tower case. And in this part we are going to install the system components one by one, starting with the power supply. And as you might have noticed, the NZXT Phantom 410 mounts the power supply in the lower area, and there are actually these rubber standoffs that elevate and hold onto the power supply and keep it in place. And there's also a ventilation area right at the bottom, and it's also filtered so that it can prevent dust accumulation from underneath. And since the ventilation is facing downward, we can take our power supply, and with the ventilation fan, we have to install it with the ventilation fan facing downwards. And of course, once you have done that, you can take the 4 hex screws that are provided in the accessory package and secure it in the back with a screwdriver. And the power supply itself does not doesn't touch all the way to the side of the motherboard tray. There's actually a few millimeters of space in between them, so you can actually route maybe your front panel audio port and even USB ports. Although there's actually holes here for USB ports for routing. Most likely your front panel audio port underneath there and behind, and attach it to the lower left hand corner where it most likely is in your motherboard. Once we have installed our power supply, the next step is to install the motherboard. And as you might have noticed, there are no motherboard standoffs installed yet, but that is not a problem. And NZXT has provided a motherboard hole index so that it can easily install the motherboard standoffs into the NZXT Phantom 410. And you can see there that the NZXT Phantom 410 supports ATX, Flex ATX, Mini ATX, Micro ATX, and Mini ATX motherboards. And there's a motherboard hole index in here that lays it out which hole you need to put in a motherboard standoff to. For example, the ATX motherboards have you have to put in a motherboard standoff on ones that are lettered A1 to A9. So that should be very, very easy to do. And also, what NZXT has done to make it even more convenient, so you don't need to take out your pliers to put in your motherboard standoff. In the accessory package, they've included an adapter, so you can actually use either your thumb or your screwdriver to secure it completely to your motherboard tray. And as an example, let me demonstrate. Here we have a motherboard standoff, and here we have the adapter. Just simply place it inside, like so. And pick a hole that you want to put the standoff in. For example, this middle one, which is part of our motherboard standoff installer for ATX. And as you can see, it is simply that easy, and it's much more secure than when you would just secure them with your hand without the adapter. Alright, now we have all our motherboard standoffs installed. There are actually 9 in total in the package, so make sure that you don't lose one, because once you lose one, there are no backup motherboard standoffs that are included in the accessory package, so that could be a problem. Right now we have all our motherboard standoffs installed, and of course next step is to install the motherboard itself. And I would recommend, to make it easier, is to put your NZXT Phantom to the side, so it's much easier to place your component. It's actually easier to screw that way rather than holding it and screwing it in place. And of course, before you do that, make sure to put in the I/O shield that is included with your motherboard, and just install it quickly at the back before you proceed with screwing in the motherboard. Now I have the NZXT Phantom 410 mid-tower case on its side. It's now time to put in our motherboard. And to make it even more convenient, I've actually pre-installed the heatsink already. But of course, even if you don't, you can actually just, since there's a large motherboard cutout, you can just easily install it right after you put in your motherboard in place. Provided, of course, that it clears the back area, the mounting area. Of course, now we have positioned it. Now we can take the screw That's providing texture package. In this case, this is the 6 screw package. This is labeled 632. Make sure not to use the M3 5 flat ones that are included in the package, for those are a little too small. So now we take these screws and screw it in place, and we put back our NZXT Phantom 410 back again upwards, so we can start maybe do a little bit of cable management before we proceed with installing the rest of the components. Alright, now we have our motherboard installed inside the NZXT Phantom 410. I actually have 6 extra screws that that didn't get used on mounting the motherboard. And also next step is we are going to do some preliminary cable routing. And what happens is usually I route most of the I leave most of the cables here on the left hand side, because most of the mounting is done facing this way or here on the left side panel. But in this case, the hard drives are mounted, the connection for the hard drives are mounted in the back, in the behind the motherboard tray in the right side panel. So I would actually have to route most of the power supply cables and data cables to the back. And as you might have noticed, see the NZXT Phantom 410 has plenty of routing areas for cables, and some of them, there's 3 of them that are grommeted. But it's one thing I've noticed is that also this was found in older NZXT cases, is that the rubber grommets they used is a little too loose, so it's a bit inconvenient sometimes, because if you try to put in a cable too fast, it comes off, and it's kind of hard to put in if you're managing a lot of cables through it. So just minor inconvenience, but if you do it slowly, it's a good for separating small cables underneath in between those partitions. So let's start doing that now, and let's take a look at the results. Alright, now we have finished our preliminary cable routing, and as you can see, it is very clean. Put my leftover cables right here in the middle. I've tied it down. I've only used 2 SATA cables into the back, one for the so I can connect the DVD and optical drive later on, and one more for the hard drive and the SSD that I will install later on. And of course, here in the left side, I have placed my PCIe connectors. And this motherboard is a P8P67WS Revolution from ASUS, and it doesn't have the front panel audio connector in the lower left hand side, so I've routed it here at the back and the top, and connected here to the middle. And as you can see, everything else is very clean. So now let's take a look at what it looks like at the other side, and see our cable routing from there. Alright, so this is what it looks like behind the right side panel. And of course we have our cables in here. There's actually plenty of space behind the motherboard tray. I even routed the 24-pin cable and a SATA cable and all the fan cables in here. There's plenty of room for all of that, and there's still space enough to close it. I haven't cleaned up this cable yet, since I'm still going to install hard drives and optical drives and a video card, of course. So once that is done, we're going to finalize the cleaning up of the cables. And also, as mentioned earlier, we installed the motherboard with the heatsink already installed, but as you can see, there's more than enough clearance in here to install the back plate, just in case if you need to install it later on, even if you don't install it with the motherboard at the same time. So there's plenty of room in there, and there's no clearance issues at all. It doesn't encroach here in the end, so that is very, very convenient. Now let's go back to the other side and we'll install the video card, and continue on with the rest of our installation. Alright, the next step, we are going to install the video card for our test setup. And of course, you have to remove the PCIe slot cover first. Of course, just unscrew the thumb screw. And sometimes, since if it's a new case, you might need to loosen it up with a screwdriver, since usually they are screwed in a little too tight, so that it doesn't move around and scratch the inside of the case during transport. So it's important to remove these. And they're actually, as you can see, the NZXT Phantom 410 is very flexible when it comes to installing a video card and accommodating when installing various video card lengths. For example, you can install, of course, a basic. This is a GTX 560 Ti, and you can easily just plug it in. Of course, you reuse the thumb screw to lock it in place. And also, we can install you can install actually an optional fan here, a 120mm or 140mm fan, and you can adjust the direction. Just loosen it up. You can have it just diverting the flow upwards to your RAM and to the CPU area, or just keep it straightforward so it blows air into your VGA area. Also, with that setup, you can actually put in a GTX 580 around that spot. And just unscrew. There you go, right here. Second PCIe. And it's the maximum length. As of course, provided that you don't have a fan installed in that area that will block the video card. So there you go. As you can see, it will even if you install it inside in there. There's a little bit of room, but you might be blocking a little bit of the front air. So you can install a 120mm fan in GTX 580, but of course, if you want to install something bigger, so something like the HD 6990, which is the largest video card currently available, what you can do is you can take out the hard drive cage right in front, just simply pressing the latch here at the top and latch at the bottom at the same time, and pulling it out. And once that is done, let's pull out this GTX 580 and just demonstrate that. Now we can fit the the AMD Radeon HD 6990 without any clearance issues. The next step involves installation of the optical drive in the 5¼ inch external device. Of course, you first need to open up the front bay cover and take out the front bay cover that we need to remove. So here I'm installing the second slot, and of course just take your optical device, 5¼ inch, and slide it down into place. Then we move on to the left side and make sure we secure it with the lock. So that we can continue our optical device installation, we need to unlock the toolless mounting mechanism. You simply move the latch, the right side, and push it outward. Now you can pull your optical device until the mounting holes align. And now you can push your mounting mechanism in place and secure it with the lock, pushing it to the left side. Now your optical device is securely in place, and you can now plug in your data cable and your power cable into your optical device. And the last two components that we are going to install inside the NZXT Phantom 410 mid-tower case are the hard drives and SSD drives, and we install that using these hard drive caddies you see here. Notice the mounting holes at the bottom. You use these screws labeled M35 flat to screw your SSD in place into those. But of course, if you're going to install SSD, you need to remove these locks on the left side. Just simply pull it out. See there, you can slide it up and then pull it up. Now you can proceed to securing your SSD into the hard drive caddy. And lastly, we will install the hard drive. Of course, we need to use another hard drive caddy. And it's a little bit easier since this is a toolless installation. Just simply align the hard drive mounting holes one side at a time to the hard drive caddy. Bend it a bit, gives a little bit more room to work with. Then just completely slide the lock in place. It's a little bit harder than it looks, since as you can see there, the lock has it keeps on getting out of place. You can see there. So you might need a little bit of pushing just so you can slide it in place. There we go. So let's see if it doesn't snag. Perfect. Now let's plug in all our SATA cables and proceed with the cable management and finalize our installation. I've hit a little bit of an issue with the SSD installation. As you can see here, the SSD mounting, the data cable and the power supply cable are a little too close into this little plastic area here. So if you have a power supply that looks like this, you can't exactly plug it in. You have to bend that little bit of plastic in place just so you can plug in your power cable. So see there. And I would suggest using the end where there's doesn't have another SATA cable at the bottom, so you can actually plug in your data cable. But also, if you're using 90-degree SATA cables, it'll be impossible to plug it in there because of this plastic area here. So I would use a straight SATA cable. Alright, so here we have all our cables attached now and all our devices attached, and we have done some cable management. It looks a bit messy here in the back, but all that's important is that all the cables are here and none of the clutter is in the front obstructing the airflow. And we have a very thick area here. I have all my fan cables, SATA cables, SATA power cables, 24-pin power, and my front panel connectors. They're all clumped in there, but no problem since there's a very thick and spacious room here behind the motherboard tray and behind the right side panel. So that's not a problem. Now let's take a look at what the left side looks like and install our RAM and see what the cable, how clean it is on the left hand side panel. And this is what our left side panel looks like. As you can see, everything is clean. All the cables are out of the way. It doesn't obstruct the airflow at all. All the extra cables are tied here in a neat little pile right underneath. Keeps a very low profile. And this the major cables are routed into the routing holes, especially the 24-pin power in there and the SATA cables. And here at the back you have the 8-pin power connected here at the upper left hand side. The installation was very easy and quick since we didn't need to do any modification with routing of the other cables. And the fans already been pre-installed and they're already been pre-routed. So we didn't even need to install any of the fans. And the fans are actually controlled by a 3-step fan controller. So what we're going to do now, put in all our panels and power up our system so you can listen to what the default fan speeds sound like and see. I believe I'm not sure if there's an LED in here, but I don't think so. There are no LEDs here, but of course we'll find out once we fire it up. But of course we'll see what the front panel LED looks like and what the fan noise is like, and the default fans are included in the NZXT Phantom 410. It's currently set at the lowest fan speed setting, and might be hard to see a bit, but the rear fan actually emits a blue LED. And now I'm going to set it to medium fan speed. Seems to be producing some sort of weird noise in there. I'm not sure if that's any vibration or electrical noise. And we'll set it to the highest fan speed setting now. The noise seems to have disappeared after I've set it to the highest fan speed. And you can see the LED also is brighter with the highest fan speed. Now I'm trying to figure out what that noise is under medium setting. Usually if it's a vibration, is an issued vibration, I just need to hold it a bit and it will do some changes. If I hold on to the case, if I touch the case, for example, but it doesn't appear to be. I'm not sure. I believe it has to do with a fan they've included in the package, but it's not an issue if you set it to medium, to lowest or highest fan speed. So I guess that's just the way that fan is. I believe it's coming from the top fan, the one that has the LED on it. It's the 140mm fan.